It's 1:35. I think we could go ahead and get started.
Sure.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Office of Economic Development Business Webinar. My name is Margaret McGee, the Business Services Manager. Business Services assist entrepreneurs and business owners in starting and growing their business. We help in navigating through the different departments within city government to obtain permits and licenses. We also connect the business community with organizations that can provide technical assistance, incentives, resources, and other programs beneficial in operating a business. One way we do this is to host business information sessions and webinars. These sessions and webinars are held throughout the year, and topics are gathered from information we collect from the business community. This is the second of the Shine Online Digital Marketing Webinar Series. Today we have Mr. Alex
Jagodzinski.
He is the Director of Digital Solutions and Client Engagement at Get Online NOLA. Alex started working with Get Online NOLA in November 2019, shortly after making the move to New Orleans from Los Angeles. Originally from Detroit and with a degree in marketing and a background in blogging, he has a passion for websites, digital content, and the written word. As the head of the web department at Get Online NOLA, Alex is in charge of launching new websites and keeping current websites running smoothly. He will share his information today about a website that works. To keep down distractions, I ask that attendees turn your videos off and mute your speakers. I ask that you place your questions in a chat box and he will answer them accordingly. All handouts provided to me will be shared with you within 24 to 48 hours after the meeting has ended. And now I'll go ahead and turn it over to Alex.
Thank you, Margaret. As she said, welcome to part 2 of the Shine Online Digital Marketing Webinar Series. This workshop is titled A Website That Works. So thank you all for joining today. Want to start off by introducing you to the team. You met Wendy last week during the Refining Your Brand webinar. She's our founder and president. Our marketing manager, Allison Schmidt, you'll be meeting her next week a little more for the Bringing on Traffic webinar. And the newest member of our team, Lydia, is our business development rep. So she, moving forward, can help you, with anything you might need our help with. I also want to shout out Miranda. She is here in the chat, and she's our digital solutions associate. She works hand in hand with me on new websites and existing websites, like Margaret said, making sure that everything runs smoothly. A little bit more about myself. I'm Alex Jagodzinski, and as Margaret said, I'm the Director of Digital Solutions and Client Engagement at Get Online NOLA. Originally from Detroit, I moved to New Orleans from Los Angeles in 2019, and I joined Get Online NOLA pretty shortly after that, and I've been, knee-deep in websites ever since. I help manage the web department, and I handle all things website related, from helping you get a new website online to helping you with admin and maintenance on your current website, along with Miranda and the rest of the web department team. I love helping businesses and nonprofits boost their online presence, and I hope I can share what I've learned in the last 5 years to help you learn a little bit more about what makes a good website and a website that works. Until recently, I also was handling a lot of the accounts and sales, but as I mentioned in the previous slide, we recently brought Lydia on as our business development rep, so please reach out to any of us if there's ever anything you need any help with. A little bit more about Get Online NOLA. Our mission is to help small businesses and nonprofits take control of their online presence and grow their bottom line through effective marketing and web services. We care deeply about the community of New Orleans, and we find it as an honor and a pleasure to work in New Orleans with all the businesses and the people that make this city so special. Um, so it's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to share what we've learned through the years with you all. Little bit of housekeeping. It's going to be about a 90-minute session. We'll take a 5-minute break about halfway through. We ask that you keep yourselves on mute, and we'll have some questions after each section. So for those interactions, type your questions or comments in the chat and hold them until we say to send them, and then we can address and talk about whatever it might be. Quick little overview of what we will be talking about today. We're going to start off with some web design basics. We'll go through some different elements that you need to consider when designing a website. We will talk about user flows, which will build on some of what Wendy talked about last week. We'll talk about your sitemap and your navigation. We'll talk about the content for your website, and we'll finish off with some search engine optimization chat about some more technical aspects, and some of which Allison will build on next week in the third webinar. So as I said, the first section is web design basics. So this is where we're going to talk about a lot of the visual elements of your website and what you need to consider. But before we can talk about that, it's important to talk about website platforms. Before you build a website, you want to know how you're going to build your website and what the programming aspect, the platform of the website is going to be. Here at Get Online NOLA, we are WordPress experts. We build almost exclusively in WordPress. We value WordPress for its open source nature. That basically means that the underlying code of the website is free and available to the public, so people can develop on it and work on it, and it really broadens its reach, and it gives a very high level of customization, because when you give people access to the underlying language, then it allows people to develop other parts and things for the platform. So that means that you get a really high level of customization, and you get a really wide range of functionality, because there's a vast library of plugins that you can add onto a base WordPress website that really can let it do anything you want. All of that means that it also has quite a bit of a learning curve. So if you aren't a pro, we wouldn't necessarily recommend trying to build a WordPress website on your own, because it can require a little bit of technical know-how to really make it work well. That being said, there are a couple more accessible and user-friendly options out there, and we've listed some of those under here. You've probably heard of some of them, like Squarespace, Shopify, or Wix. You can kind of build these websites with little to no experience, and they offer sort of drag and drop builders and pre-built templates that allow you to do these websites really easily, but also kind of constrict what you can get away with when building them. You're kind of stuck with what you get, and that works well for a lot of people. But like I said, we prefer WordPress. We prefer the ability to sort of customize a website to anybody's needs. So now that we've touched on that, we'll talk about all kind of the design elements of your website. We're going to start off talking about your logo. Wendy talked a bit about the important considerations that should be made when making a logo for your brand and working on your branding. And those things are kind of just as important when you're thinking about how your logo and your brand fit into your website overall. Your logo should showcase your brand personality, and the same goes for the design of your website. Cohesion across all of your marketing materials is really important, And since your website is one of your most vital marketing tools, it's important that your logo is considered when designing your website. If they don't play well together, then it could be confusing to your customers. So same kind of things that Wendy talked about with your logo overall, kind of apply to your website. You want to make your logo simple and legible. You want to make it scalable so it can work on business cards, it can work on your website. It's good to use kind of an image or a mark, and you want to make it memorable. If your logo is memorable, you can transfer that to your overall design, and your website will be memorable as well. Moving on to the colors for your website. By the time you're building a website for your business, you should already have your brand colors chosen. So we're just going to go over this really quickly to talk about how those colors fit into your website. Like with other kinds of design, the 60-30-10 rule applies. So this rule states that your dominant color ought to be used 60% of your time. Your secondary colors should be used 30% of the time. So we like to split that up 15% for each of the secondary colors. And then your accent color should be used 10% of the time. Some important things to consider are contrast and readability. We're going to talk about this in the terms of accessibility quite a few times throughout this webinar. Poor contrast can strain users' eyes and make it difficult to navigate the website. A way to sort of guard against this is to use whites and grays for the background. Just be thoughtful to not consider those whites and grays as part of any of those percentages we're talking about here. Those are kind of considered non-colors. Making sure you take contrast and readability into account also helps people with color blindness navigate your website. And it's important to use a bit of a visual hierarchy, to use colors to kind of create a guide for users as to what's the most important elements on your website, being things like calls to actions, headings, buttons. Again, you want your colors to be cohesive with your overall logo, branding, and brand identity. You want these things to all look like they're part of the same family of your brand. Another aspect that Wendy talked about last week was fonts. As with your brand overall, we suggest that most websites pick two fonts. Sometimes you can use a third one for really important, like big headings, but two is usually safe. One will be used for the majority of your text, and the other is just to indicate more important information like headings or calls to action. Um, we'll go over this again really quick, but there's the kind of four main categories of text. We have serif, which is more serious and traditional, sans serif, which feels more streamlined and modern. Scripts usually feel more elegant, like the one displayed here. And then there are display fonts, which are really only for effect or for a very specific purpose, like Wendy mentioned last week. This one is kind of for spooky season. It looks like it could be used on a haunted house or a horror movie poster. So think again about your brand personality and which of these fonts makes the most sense for your customer. When choosing fonts for a website, again, prioritize readability and accessibility. Ensure they align with your brand identity, and you want to maintain consistency throughout the site. You also want to consider the emotional tone that these fonts convey. And like I said above, limit the different number of fonts to avoid a cluttered and disjointed appearance. We'll talk some more about photos later in the content section and how the above the fold content of your homepage should be like a postcard with your elevator pitch on it. With that said, the most important element of a postcard is the photo on it. Photos on a website are extremely important. Not only do they help tell your story visually, but they also change how people interact with your website. Even if it means buying stock photography, you need to make sure that your images are high resolution and high quality. Photos from an iPhone normally won't work. I often get clients asking if they can send iPhone photos, and then you try to put them on a website, which kind of blows them up, and they just look grainy and out of place. The lighting isn't right. You want to get professional photography any way you can. Another thing to consider is eye gaze. If you look at this example of eye gaze tracking, this photo shows that people were so distracted by the photo of the cute baby that they didn't read the content. Studies find that people are naturally attracted to photos of other people, and they will look most often and first at the eyes of a subject. If you look at this second example, though, you'll notice that people follow the eyes of the subject of a photo. So in this photo, the baby is still the main focal point for people's eyes, but you can also see that they follow the gaze of the baby and end up reading the text there more than they would. Couple examples here. You can kind of see we're bringing back Martin Financial as a example here, and you can see that this subject is turned away from the text. And when you first look at the website, your kind of instinct is to also look away. Looking at this second photo, though, she's now turned toward the text, and your instinct is to sort of look in that direction also. The posture and the way her face is facing causes you to look at the important information. So it's an important thing to consider overall in the design of your website. Another thing we want to talk about is the importance of a mobile first design. I'm guessing that most of you are like me and you browse the internet from your phone. Recent studies say that 60% of global web traffic now comes from mobile devices. Instituting a mobile first design strategy is crucial because, as we said, the majority of web traffic now comes from mobile. And because of that, search engines like Google prioritize mobile friendly sites in their rankings. By designing for mobile users first, you ensure that the experience is optimized for smaller screens, faster load times, and touch interaction. This approach leads to better usability, higher engagement, and improved SEO performance because, like I said above, Google now prioritizes mobile-friendly sites and pretty significantly penalizes older websites that are not responsive to mobile. All of this is to say that you still want to be sure that your site scales effectively to larger screens without sacrificing that functionality and design quality. But you should always consider mobile first when designing nowadays, because this 60% is only going to continue to increase over time. Again, we're going to keep talking about accessibility and how important it is for all aspects of your website. Approximately 15% of the global population experiences some form of disability, making accessible design not just ethical, but also a smart business decision. Prioritizing accessibility ensures that all users, including those with disabilities, can navigate and interact with your site effectively, broadening your audience outreach. Additionally, accessible websites, as we said, often perform better in search engine rankings because search engines favor sites with clear, well-structured content, benefiting your overall visibility and user engagement. Aside from the fact that we consider it to be, the right thing to do and a smart business decision, prioritizing accessibility can also protect your business from potential litigation. Courts in the US are currently a bit divided on the issue, but there have been numerous lawsuits brought against businesses for having websites that are not compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Basically, they're saying that these websites are the same thing as kind of a brick and mortar store, and where a brick and mortar store might need like ramps for a wheelchair, a website needs to be built in order to accommodate people with disabilities as well. Another important thing to take into account when designing your website is that it's really important to not overwhelm your users. Hick's law is a psychological principle that states that the more options a person has to choose from, the longer it will take them to make a decision. This directly applies to website development by emphasizing the importance of simplifying navigation, reducing options for users. In practice, this means that by minimizing the number of choices on a page, you can help people make decisions more quickly and easily, improving their overall experience. Simplifying choices not only enhances the usability, but reduces frustration and confusion when navigating a website. I'm sure some of you have been to a website that's just um, overrun with choices and text and like bells and whistles, and it makes it a very frustrating experience. Another thing that's important is the above the fold portion of your website, and that is the portion of your website that's visible without scrolling. This concept originates from the world of print, where in newspapers, the most important information was placed above the fold of the newspaper in order to attract readers and get them to buy the newspaper. In web design, the above the fold area, as I said, means the area that is before you scroll, and it's important for quite a few reasons. First off, first impressions matter. The first thing visitors see when they land on your website is this section, and it sets the tone for the entire experience, and it influences their perception of your brand and your business. A well-designed above the fold section can capture attention and encourage further exploration of the website. Most users decide really quickly whether to stay on a website or leave, and the above the fold content, if it's compelling, increases the likelihood that they'll stay longer, explore more, and engage with your content and services. Another reason it's important is it conveys key messages. It's prime real estate for the most important messages about your business, about your services. So whether it's a headline or a call to action or an engaging image, the content here should clearly communicate what the site's about and why it matters to visitors. A well-designed above the fold section can help improve conversion rates. And by placing critical information like a sign up or buy now call to action in the navigation area, you can make it easier for users to take the desired actions you want them to take without needing to scroll. This has been proven to significantly improve conversion rates, especially for landing pages and e-commerce websites. You can also direct people to the inside pages of your site with CTAs like View Portfolio or Learn about our services in order to build trust before pushing for conversions. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide. There's also SEO considerations, as with all aspects of a website. Search engines like Google, they pay attention to what's in the above the fold content, and having relevant and optimized content in this area can positively impact your SEO score. And also, again, mobile responsiveness. It should always be considered, and the above the fold content should be designed in order to work well on small screens as well as a full screen. Key information should be prioritized so that users can access it immediately without excessive scrolling. All this is to say, as we've already said, that the above the fold area is critical for capturing attention, conveying key messages, and driving user engagement and conversions. Talked a little bit in the previous slide about this, but we're going to keep bringing up CTAs or calls to action. And that's a sort of a direction for your users, what you want them to do. While you don't want to lead people on for too long before soliciting them for a conversion, you also don't want to bombard them with solicitations for something without building some trust first. Progressive CTAs involve creating calls to action that align with the user's current stage in their journey through your website. So instead of overwhelming users with an aggressive single CTA like buy now, a progressive approach introduces these smaller, less intrusive steps like learn more, sign up for updates. As users engage and you build their trust, they then can be presented with stronger CTAs like purchase now or schedule a consultation. This strategy improves the user experience by building confidence and reducing friction, ultimately increasing conversion rates over time. You can see in this example that there's learn about our tax services CTA or a learn about financial planning CTA with the purpose of building trust and establishing your business's credibility. Then once someone clicks through to that, you can include other things like schedule a consultation. You could have like a form under or like under the more information about your services. So you've sort of led them to learn more about you, gain more trust in you and what it is you're offering, and then you can solicit them for a conversion. All these elements we've just discussed, they go into creating an appealing and impactful website, and it's important to be intentional while you're doing that. When you're thinking about all of these elements, you want to keep your ideal customer in mind throughout. It's always good to examine other websites you like and see what they do well. And you want to guide people to take the desired actions. By understanding their needs and their preferences and their behavior, it allows you to craft a user experience that resonates with them. So this means designing with your user's goal in mind, whether it's gathering information or making a purchase or contacting you for services. Every feature from layout and navigation to content, calls to action, it should be aligned with what your ideal customer values and how they typically interact with websites. By thinking about their journey, you can create a design that's not only visually appealing, but also functional and tailored to drive conversions. Building off the idea of intention in website design, we're going to talk about creating user flows. This process goes hand in hand with the customer personas that Wendy spoke about in the first webinar. So now that you've thought about your ideal customer, we need to figure out how they're going to behave on your website, or more importantly, how you want them to behave on your website. In order to do this, you need to create a user flow. User flow is like a roadmap for your target user's journey through your website. So by mapping out a few different user flows, you can more strategically build your website and populate it with content that's useful to your users and relevant to your goals. So you want to think about what it is that you want users to do. To create a user flow, you think about the end goal for your user, and then you work backwards from there. Do you want them to follow you on social media? Do you want them to take a quiz or download a white paper? Or do you want them to complete a consultation form or call you? Identifying key actions that align with your business objectives will make it easier for you to create a journey for your users through your website. From there, you can design intuitive step-by-step pathways that guide users to these actions, ensuring that each step is simple and logical. Before we build the user flows, we want to talk about what your call to action is, or your CTA. You've heard me talk about this a few times. And that's the thing that is going to get users to their final stop in their journey on your website. It's a direct instruction to your users that brings them to the place you want them to be. It should be short, clear, and to the point. Think of buttons on the website that say something like contact us, sign up now, get in touch, shop now. These are all calls to action. They're directions for people. All of these things are directing people to do something you want them to do. People want to be told how to find the value you're trying to bring them. So make sure you're clear about what you want them to do. Your website and your entire online presence, for that matter, should make it easy for users to complete these goals. Also, keep in mind what we said about progressive CTAs and consider ways to build trust and confidence before getting the users to their final stops. Maybe you have a CTA to view services before showing them the CTA to request a consultation. When a user performs that action that you've outlined for them in the CTA, that's called a conversion. In terms of goals and analytics on websites, conversions are extremely important because they measure the effectiveness of your website in achieving the business goals you've laid out. To put it simply, improving conversions is the reason you create user flows and design your website with the intention of guiding people through the journey. One of the most effective ways to encourage conversions is by offering something of value to users, such as a free resource or a discount or exclusive content. This not only incentivizes users to take action, but it also builds trust and demonstrates your value. By providing something meaningful in exchange for their engagement, like an ebook or a free consultation or a special offer, you create a sense of reciprocity that encourages users to move further along the conversion funnel, increasing the likelihood of them eventually becoming loyal customers. Now let's take a look at a couple examples of user flows. So you want to create a clear pathway. So in this first example, maybe somebody finds you in a search and they arrive on your homepage. They read about a service blurb and they click a progressive CTA to learn more. And then they read the details and they schedule a consultation with you after learning about your expertise in the field. In this next option, maybe your goal isn't necessarily to sell or schedule something at the end, but these people, they find you in a search and arrive on a landing page. They read an article and fill out a form for a free download. And when doing that, they opt into your email list so that you can continue to market with them. Maybe you have a longer sales cycle and people don't usually buy on the first interaction, but the more you can interact with them, the more the chance of them becoming a customer. One thing to note is to always gain consent before adding someone to your email list. And in this final user flow example, the people, they click a link to your site from Instagram. They use a college cost calculator and they click another post and then they become part of your remarketing audience. So maybe this goal is to keep generating traffic with repeat ads. And what happens when someone becomes part of a remarketing audience is they click through your website enough that a cookie gets dropped and they're then served ads for your business later on. Now it's your turn. Think about a conversion idea for your website and type it in the chat and hold until I say send. I'll give y'all a minute or two to think about some and then we can talk about some. All right, if anyone has any conversion ideas, they can drop them in the chat now. All right, these are some good ones. So support our work, the donate to give to a nonprofit. That's a great CTA idea. Michelle, law updates. So I'm guessing you mean like a CTA to learn more about law updates. Applications are a good one. Book a free consultation is a great CTA. This free ebook of recipes is a great idea. Some like we talked about in one of these slides, right? Offering something to someone so that you can, build rapport with them. CTA for a free consultation, again, offering something to someone. And become a member. Yep, these are all good CTAs. Again, think about what you can kind of offer to people as a conversion strategy. Like we say in this slide, college calculator, something someone can learn from, downloadable workbook, something that they get. Uh, Subscribe to get a digital recipe book. These are all really great ideas, and I think y'all are kind of onto what we mean about this. What do I suggest for a food tour company? Um, well, there, I think if you're a food tour, then you probably have some partner partner restaurants. You could maybe look for something with one of those restaurants to offer for bringing their business. Another thing would be a thing like people are talking about a free recipe or stuff like that. It's food related, but it's something you can offer to people kind of at a low cost to yourself. All right, we'll move on now um, to some homework for you. So you should think about a couple user flows for your website and continue to think of conversion ideas. We're just about at the halfway mark of both our time and for the webinar slides. So we'll break here for 5 minutes, give everyone a second, get something to drink, and we'll be back in just about 5 minutes. All right, we'll pick things back up now. And we'll talk about sitemap and navigation. So now that we figured out the kind of the routes that we want people to take through your website, we can begin creating a wider map of your website, and that brings us to sitemap and navigation. Creating a sitemap involves choosing and organizing the pages on your website to create a structure that supports both your goals and the goals of your user. Think about the primary goals of your website. Is it to drive sales, generate leads, or provide information? Create pages that help accomplish these goals. For example, if you're a financial services company, like our example, Martin Financial, you want people to fill out a form for a consultation, you'll want to create services pages that describe how you can help people and establish your credibility in that field. Once you've got your pages, you need to organize them in a hierarchy that makes sense to the user. The structure should be intuitive for users to navigate with easy access to important content, while also helping search engines crawl and index your site effectively. A well-organized sitemap guides users through a logical flow, making it easier for them to find out what they need and to complete the desired actions, which ultimately enhances conversions and user satisfaction. You'll want to think about which pages will be in your header and which will be in your footer. Your most important pages should always be in the header, and some of those in the footer as well. But there's other things like privacy policy that are best left to the footer because they won't be used that often by your users. So to create a sitemap, you'll want to list all the pages on your website, consider how they interact, think about which pages will be in your header and footer, and never forget about the important legal pages. Here's an example sitemap for our favorite example here, which is Martin Financial. The top level bullet points here, the about, contact, services, those are going to be the main menu items on your website's navigation. The bullet points below that in the lighter tan colored area, those indicate that those are going to be drop downs of the main navigation items. These drop down contain pages that are logical subcategories of the main items. So think about the services drop down here. Under that, we're drilling down into the individual services like tax planning and preparation and financial planning. These pages in the sitemap are created and organized to establish credibility and generate conversions by giving users useful information and ways to contact the business about their services. On this side, you can see a sitemap put into practice on Get Online NOLA's website. This should help you visualize how sitemaps become navigation menus. You can see all our top level menu items, home, about, services, the contact us, which is super important. But then you see in the services drop down, we have our individual services, which are web design, branding, SEO, digital ads, social media management. So now that we've talked about your sitemap and we've seen how we have implemented our own sitemap in our website's navigation, let's talk a little bit more about your top navigation, because it's basically what we consider to be the most important part of your website. It's going to be the part of your website that most users are going to interact with the most. So we'll talk about some do's and don'ts here. You want to make sure that there's not too many layers or too many drop downs, or you also want to make sure there's not too many items. You don't want things crammed, both from a like user experience and accessibility experience. It can make things sort of get bunched up and moved around on screens. You don't want that. You want to make sure your navigation is sticky. So that is when the top menu sort of stays with the user as they scroll down the page. So as you scroll down the page, whereas on older websites, you would just lose the navigation. Now you can program them to stay with the user. So as they scroll through the page, they can still navigate through your website easily. You want to make sure to include active and hover states. Hover states are when you, on a desktop, it doesn't really work on mobile, is when you hover your cursor over a menu item, the color changes to sort of indicate that that's the thing you're about to select. Active state is similar, except that changes the color of the page you're actively on. As you saw in our navigation, you want to include contact information or a link to your contact information. A lot of websites will also put a phone number up there, just increasing the chance that they'll reach out to you and be able to contact you. You want your navigation to be consistent from page to page. I've seen a couple times throughout the years where people have different navigation menus on different pages of their website, and that is it's not good for user experience. It's very confusing, and it causes people to get lost, and when you confuse people or cause them to get lost, they usually just leave your website. Speaking of that, let's look at a bad example of a navigation. there there's a lot of things wrong with this. Does anyone have any ideas about what might be wrong with that? You can type it in the chat if you do. Exactly. The biggest issue with it is that it's too busy, there's too many options, too many tabs. Uh, the words are kind of small, and I think that is a result of there being too many things here. With something like this, it's got all the information that they need, but it also savings is misspelled. That's a good catch. Um, it's got everything they need, but it's not organized. It's overwhelming, and it makes it harder for the user to navigate the website. So while they're giving people everything they need, they're not doing it in a way that's intuitive. It's way too cluttered. And I imagine that you all would leave this website if you landed on it, because I know I would. And his hair is not great. You are correct, Sandy. All right, so we've kind of mentioned the footer in passing. So we talked about your top navigation menu, and the footer is that navigation that is all the way down on a website when you scroll. So this is kind of your last point to catch people. It's important to put some of your important pages there too, to reiterate that you want people to go to there. But it's also a great place to put contact info, to put like a way for people to subscribe to your newsletter. It's a great place to put social media links that you don't want cluttering the top navigation. It's another good place to put certification. We've had clients that sort of put their certification badges in this area. That works great. And it's also important to put it's a good place to put legal documents like your terms and conditions and your privacy policy. Um, that's great to put that there. Privacy policies are especially important. The Federal Trade Commission we've seen recently, they've been giving people fines of up to $7,000 for not having privacy policies on their website. A little homework for you all is to create a sitemap of your website, um, and to add any pages that might be missing. So now that we figured out the routes we want people to take through your website and we've talked about the wider map of your website, we got to talk about content because that is what is going to engage people and help establish your credibility with them. So we'll talk first about your homepage. It's often the first thing that people see when they interact with your website. So you want to treat this page like an elevator pitch for your business. It's often the first impression that visitors get of your brand, and it serves as the central hub of your website. You want to consider what is seen in that above the fold area before people start scrolling, like we talked about. It should be like a postcard, so don't cram in too much information, but describe your business's story and its benefits succinctly. The above the fold area should have your top navigation, like we talked about, should have some engaging visuals, and it should have strong calls to action to go along with some strong written copy to engage users. Planning your homepage is crucial because a well-designed homepage will communicate who you are, what you offer, and it will guide users to the next steps in their journey. When planning, consider your key business goals and how to best showcase them. It's important to think about your target audience and ensure that the design, messaging, and visuals resonate with them. A strategically planned homepage sets the tone for the rest of your site, making it easier for visitors to understand your value and take that meaningful action that you want them to take. So I talked about how, the above the fold homepage section should be like your elevator pitch. Usually, when we talk about elevator pitches, it's in the context of networking or in person events. But especially over the last few years, we've all had to move to using more remote technology to build our businesses. You should know your elevator pitch for in person use, but it's also useful to have for writing content for your website. It's about the reader. How can your business help them specifically? The pitch isn't a direct call for purchase, but it should open the door to a relationship with this client. The same basic concept that you should use in the above the fold of your website. Make it short, sweet, and appealing to the user. Something like this. I'll give you like my quick elevator pitch right now. Hi, my name's Alex, and I'm from Get Online NOLA. Our company was born out of a love for New Orleans and the businesses that make our city what it is. We love to help companies boost their online presence and make an impact in the community. Whether you need a new website, digital marketing, SEO, or anything else to take your business to the next level online, we can help. We'll work with you to create a custom approach that suits your needs and helps you share your unique products, services, and expertise with the people who need it. So contact us today for a free strategy session and learn how we can help you shine online. So this pitch does kind of all the things that we want in the above the fold content. It describes our services and our brand personality and our value. It uses that shine online tagline, and it also features a call to action and offers something to people. So if you can think about your elevator pitch and think about how you can apply that to your homepage and your above the fold content, it can really help you with that kind of postcard for your business. We don't have time to go through your elevator pitch now, but we do have this handy worksheet that we'll make sure to send out to everybody after the workshop. I want to talk about encouraging click-throughs. This kind of relates to that progressive CTAs chat we had earlier, but you want your website content and your homepage design to be crafted to encourage click-throughs by engaging visitors and guiding them towards that deeper exploration of your website. The longer you can keep people on your site, the more of a chance you have to build their trust and generate conversions. By giving people links to relevant content to engage with on the page, like related services, blog posts, or team members, you can add value to the user's experience on your website. When you create a seamless and engaging user journey with clear paths forward, you can increase click through rates and ultimately drive those conversions. Another important thing to think about when adding elements to the content of your website are trust elements. We've talked a lot throughout this webinar about building trust with your clients and your potential clients. Including trust elements on your website is essential for building that credibility and fostering confidence among your visitors. Some examples of trust elements are testimonials, case studies, reviews, awards, memberships to different organizations that your organization is part of, trust badges, secure payment options, and clear privacy policies. These signal to users that your business is reliable and professional. These components help alleviate doubt and encourage users to engage, especially when making purchase decisions or sharing personal information. In a digital landscape where users may be wary of scams or low quality services, these trust indicators play a vital role in reducing friction and improving conversion rates. By demonstrating your reliability and your transparency, you can create that sense of security, which is critical for turning visitors into loyal customers. Um, I'll touch again on privacy policies because we've recently seen issues with this, but they're super important to have on your website. There's Wendy very kindly shared our privacy policy, but we recommend you consult with a legal professional. But there are also a lot of websites that help you generate a privacy policy. Some are free, some for a fee, but the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, is starting to crack down on businesses that don't have privacy policies and issuing pretty hefty fees. So we can't stress how important they are enough. So the rest of the pages on your website need just as much care as your homepage. Everything that's not your homepage is called a back page on your website. Consider for these pages what headings you want to use, the text ideas you want, photo ideas, what call to action you want to put on these pages, and what other pages of your content you could link to from your homepage and from these back pages. Ultimately, your back pages should support your broader website goals while providing valuable, actionable information that builds trust and engages users. Back pages such as product or service pages, blogs, FAQs, they should provide detailed, relevant information that aligns with your user needs and their expectations. You want to focus on clarity and focus on value. Each page should address a specific question or problem that your target audience might have, or reinforce your business's expertise in some area, as with the idea of like a service page. We're going to touch briefly on using AI. By now, I'm sure you've all heard of AIs such as ChatGPT and how people can use them to make their lives easier. This is definitely true, and AI is an extremely valuable tool when looking for inspiration or ideas or writing outlines. But it's also very important to not rely on it completely to write your website content. AI can really quickly create content based on prompts. It can suggest headlines. It can even help you optimize for SEO. So, like I said, it's a great option for streamlining. But you want to make sure that your writing aligns with your brand's voice. And AI content can really lack nuance or creativity or that human touch. AIs are also notorious for giving you inaccurate information. It's called hallucinations. So you should always double check everything that's generated by an AI, and wherever possible, rewrite it so that it gives the information in your own voice, or more importantly, the voice of your brand. It's also worth noting that anything generated by an AI can't be copyrighted. Allison's going to talk some more about this next week. But when creating content and pages, you should strategically integrate email collection and lead generation by offering valuable incentives such as downloadable resources. We've talked about this a bit already. Exclusive access to content, discounts, all this kind of stuff that you can give in exchange for receiving users' email addresses. You want to position sign up forms or pop ups at key touch points, like after a user engages with content or just before they leave the site, ensuring that they're visible but not intrusive. You don't want to overwhelm people with this. Additionally, you can optimize the forms for ease of use by keeping them short and straightforward and clearly communicate the benefits of subscribing. You also want to, like I said before, make sure that you get like explicit permission to use them to use their email address for like email marketing, and you want to be sure that their data is handled securely and in compliance with privacy regulations, which you should outline in that privacy policy. Something we find super helpful is automating your email list. So when you get people to sign up for your email list, you want that information to go to your email provider as soon as possible. You don't want to have to check every contact form submission and then manually enter the emails into your email software. One way to make that easier is to find an integration between whatever form you're using to collect the emails and whatever email marketing software you use. We use Gravity Forms on all our websites. It's a really versatile contact form plugin. You can do so much with it, and it also has an add-on that allows for integration with Mailchimp, which is our preferred email marketing software. Basically, it creates a link between the two things that automatically sends customer information to Mailchimp when they fill out the form on your website. There's a lot of ways to do this same kind of automation. Your products that you already have might include this, so like your CRM software, or you can use tools like Zapier to create that connection. So your turn. What are some content ideas that you could have on your personal web or your business's website? So like blog post or back page ideas. Y'all can type some in the chat and we can talk about them a little. You can send them if you have them. Yeah, so specific programs like we talked about, like to sort of give these people the information about your business. Do blog posts really help? They do. They are not only helpful to people seeking out information, but they're a big part of SEO. And Allison is going to talk more about that next week. So programming pillars and what they offer, that's great. Access to resources, history, impact, all these things are really important. They give information to people, they establish credibility and impact, all the things you're trying to do. We talked we've talked throughout this webinar about establishing credibility, certain benefits of ingredients. Yeah, that's super helpful. If you're giving people these things that help them, they're more likely to trust you. They're more likely to continue to want to interact with you. Yeah, FAQs are a great way to help people on your website and to understand help them understand more about you and about your business. A features section that shows published works, that's great. Kind of also on that same kind of thing as like case studies for a business, also like you want to feature the work you've done and establish that credibility, show people that you have that expertise and that knowledge to give them the help they need. Right. Some homework for y'all is to think of 2 to 3 blog posts or back pages. Think about different trust elements that you could add on your website, testimonials, reviews, statistics that relate to your business or the work that your business has done. And work on your elevator pitch, because if you can really get that dialed in, then you can really directly transfer that to the above the fold content of your homepage. All right. On to the last section of this webinar. Like I said, Allison's going to go into some more detail on this next week in regards to a content strategy for SEO. But search engine optimization is extremely important when creating a website that works. So we're going to talk about a few of the more technical aspects of search engine optimization and a website that works. As it relates to search engine optimization, it's all about page speeds when we're thinking about the technical aspects of SEO. Having a fast website is extremely important, basically because people will leave a slow website. Think about the last time you got frustrated with a website taking too long to load, and then think about how long that took. I mean, our current culture or of scrolling, of browsing, we're really impatient and we have short attention spans. This quote from a Google executive says that 2 seconds is the threshold for e-commerce website acceptability, and at Google they aim for under a half second. That quote was from more than 6 years ago, and our expectations have only increased. The average user has no patience for a page that takes too long, and this chart shows abandonment over time. As you can see, it's critical for websites to load quickly. 40% of users will leave a website that takes more than 3 seconds. So when we talk about increasing page speeds, there are quite a few technical things that can be done to improve this. Most of these items are far outside of even my technical ability, but our programmers are extremely well versed, and knowing about these things can help you know what to ask for when working with web development professionals. One thing that's really important is enabling browser caching. So basically, that allows a website's photos and content to be like sort of stored in the browser so that when someone comes to that website later, the things load up more quickly. Another thing is minifying CSS, JavaScript, and HTML. These are all programming languages that are used to help build websites. And minifying that basically means that the programmers, they go in and they remove unneeded elements, they remove extra spaces, and these are things that allow everything to move more quickly when the pages load by just basically removing things that aren't necessary. Another very helpful thing is using a CDN or a content delivery network. Content delivery network is basically a web of servers all across the world that spread your website's content into those different servers so that the things on your website can be loaded up for people in certain geographic areas more quickly by sort of using a more direct route. There's other server optimizations that can be done at your hosting server level. And then another important thing that can be done is lazy loading images. So that means when someone is scrolling on a website, the images below where they're scrolling don't load all at once. They load once someone scrolls to that section of the website. Image optimization. So one of the biggest things that people do to slow down their website, and I see it all the time, is by uploading images that are far too large or in formats that aren't well suited for websites. We always recommend compressing images before uploading them to your website in order to give the smallest file size possible. This smaller file size means the file loads quicker. We use there's free websites like TinyPNG that you can use to compress images for free, or you can use a more professional software like Photoshop. You can see in this sort of this optimization example on the screen here, both of these images basically look the same, but the file size on the optimized version is 100 kilobytes and the unoptimized version is 384 kilobytes. So you're saving 73% of your file size here. Another important thing, and this is pretty new, is next generation image formats like WebP or AVIF. They're a great option for optimization because they offer significantly better compression without compromising your image quality. These formats produce smaller file sizes compared to traditional image formats like JPEG or PNG, which means that they load faster and they use less bandwidth. Faster loading times, they improve the overall performance of your website, leading to a better experience and higher SEO rankings. And speed is a huge ranking factor for search engines like Google. These next gen formats, they also support transparency and animation, making them versatile for various design needs while maintaining optimized performance. Back to our old friend accessibility. Um, Accessibility is a huge aspect of search engine optimization. Public websites are required by the Americans with Disabilities Act to be accessible, and Google also penalizes websites that aren't accessible. This slide shows four of the biggest pitfalls people have when creating their website as it relates to accessibility. One thing is not including alt tags on images. So an alt tag is a short bit of text that describes what's in the image, and then this tag is used for screen readers. So people with visual impairments have programs that basically read what's on screen to them. And by adding alt tags to images, you help those screen readers, and Google takes note of that. Another thing is sensical links when linking in text. You should avoid linking to phrases like click here and instead use descriptive text like schedule a consultation or something that actually says what the link is going to do for them. Google also pays attention to that. Again, your website needs text to be in high contrast, like black on white, to be readable for people with poor eyesight or colorblindness. And the URLs need to accurately describe the content of the page. I see some poorly built websites that will have a back page that is just like a series of letters and numbers. Instead, it should say something like web design service, something descriptive so that search engines know what's on the page, and also people that have accessibility issues can know what page they're on. If you're interested in learning more about your current website and seeing if your website is accessible, you can go to our website for a free accessibility audit. You can fill out the form on that page, or you can just send us an email, but it's getonlinenola.com/accessibility. The last component I'm going to talk about for SEO is links and backlinks. And how your content is linked online is really important. So you want to think of creating a web of links inside your own site and on the wider internet. So this means linking to pages on your website from other pages on your website, and that's called internal linking. Um, you also want to think about external links. It's things like social media would be like the low hanging fruit in that category. And whenever possible, you want to try to gain backlinks to your website. For example, say the local news mentions you in an article, you could ask them to add a link to your website in the post. And also, you can add a link to that article on your website. So both of those the reputable news website and your website are now linking back and forth, and that is huge, huge, huge for SEO. These links do need to be from expert, authoritative, and trustworthy websites. This tells Google that you're trustworthy too, and they do know if you're being linked from a bad source. They need to be relevant to your business and ideally from topically similar websites. And again, they should be healthy links. I see, working in web development, I get a lot of emails like solicitations from companies overseas saying that they can create backlinks for like a really small amount of money. And what they're doing is basically just creating spam websites that provide backlinks. And Google knows, and Google will penalize you for having those spammy backlinks. So that brings us to the end of the presentation for today. Like some of the homework stuff that we talked about here, create a couple of user flows, think about conversion ideas, create a sitemap, work on your elevator pitch. We also talked about, thinking about blog posts and back page ideas. All of these things are critical to creating a website that provides users with value and, helps you accomplish your business goals.
Awesome, Alex.
Sure. And, if you want any personalized advice, feel free to sign up for our newsletter and get in touch for a strategy session with myself or Wendy or Lydia. And, we would love to talk to you more about your business and how we can help you.
Okay, so do anybody have any questions for Alex? I'm pretty sure he gave you a lot of information.
Hope I didn't overwhelm you.
Oh, of course not. I thought it was awesome. I want to thank everyone for joining today, especially our guest speaker for providing that wealth of information. Within 5 to 10 business days, this session will be available on the Office of Economic Development YouTube channel, along with previous recorded sessions. Remember to check your email for webinar 3, Bring on the Traffic. And I hope everyone is able to join us then. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Everybody have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.